my wife and I made a video sitting out on the deck and enjoying the outdoor sitting area of our home, and we were elevated. We had consumed broccoli wand, the Lord's lettuce, the giggle bush, jazz cabbage, 420, the sticky icky, the illy. And this person took offense to that. This person says, setting a wonderful example for your son. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that mindset. Would you have said the same thing if my wife and I were sitting on the deck and I had an ice cold beer in my hand and my wife had a glass of wine? Would you leave the same comment saying, setting a wonderful example for your son? Because my guess is you wouldn't. Because you see, here in the United States, we have been programmed to believe that alcohol is fine and the sticky icky is bad, broccoli wand is bad. And therefore, one's acceptable and one isn't. So we can show people drinking beer and getting fucking tanked in the process at baseball games and football games and concerts. And Budweiser can sponsor all kinds of sporting events, and Jack Daniels can sponsor sporting events and racing events and all kinds of stuff. And people like you don't say a fucking word. If I was sitting on that deck, just as elevated, but from alcohol instead of beer, instead of cannabis, you wouldn't have a thing to say about it. Because you're a fucking hypocrite. And society as a whole is a hypocrite. Am I setting a good example for my son? I don't know. Let's see. My son is from a family that doesn't have divorced parents, which is something that a lot of kids in the school come from. We've been together for 28 years. We've been married for 26 years. So I think that sets a good example for my son. My son sees a cohesive family unit that has stayed in one place, put down roots, and become part of the community. I think that's a good example for my son. You want to talk specifically about the mind enhancements? Fine, let's talk about that. Broccoli wand is less dangerous for your body than alcohol. How many people each year die from alcohol? How many people each year die from cannabis? Cannabis isn't addictive as alcohol. Cannabis doesn't destroy your mind and your body like alcohol does. Yeah, I think showing my son that cannabis use is acceptable among adults, the way other parents show their sons that alcohol use is acceptable among adults, is a better example to set for my son. If my son goes to somebody else's house and they see their parents on the deck getting shit-faced drunk on a Saturday night, I would want my son to know that while that is the chosen method for some adults, here, that's not what we do. As a matter of fact, we have already raised our son in such a manner that when my son sees my wife take a drink of a glass of wine, he will ask her, how many of those are you going to have? Because here, drinking isn't the norm. If you want a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey or something, we have it. You're going to have to dust it off because we don't drink. and so our son was raised in a house where cannabis usage was not frowned upon, was not victim. It's not the word I'm looking for. Was not demonized the way it has been over the course of the last 50 years in this country. We're raising our children to live in a realistic world where cannabis isn't the evil drug that people like you portray it to be, and teaching them that while alcohol is something they can consume as an adult, that's going to do far more danger to you than cannabis will. All of my kids were raised in an open cannabis house. I've never once smoked in front of one of my kids in all of the years that we've had them, but they all know that I do. They all know that their mother consumes edibles, and they all know that it's less dangerous for them than alcohol is. So yeah, I think I am setting a wonderful example for my son. Hopefully my son doesn't grow up to be a piece of shit online troll.